Let me be direct with you from the outset because what we are witnessing right now is not a routine diplomatic exchange. It is not a standard scientific collaboration. What we are witnessing is the quiet arrival of Pakistani nuclear scientists in Tehran at a moment when the entire international community is focused elsewhere, and that timing is not accidental. I am looking at flight manifests and diplomatic cables that have been circulating among Western intelligence analysts for the past 96 hours, and I need you to walk through this with me because what they show is not a trade delegation. It is not a cultural exchange. It is not an academic conference. What they show is a team of specialists from Pakistan's nuclear establishment arriving in Iran during the most sensitive negotiations over Iran's nuclear program in more than a decade. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly why this matters far more than the headlines suggest, why the timing reveals everything about what is actually being negotiated behind closed doors, and why what happens in Tehran over the next 2 weeks will reshape the nuclear balance of power across the entire Middle East and South Asia. This analysis is not speculation. Subscribe now if you have not already, because what we are about to cover is being actively monitored by American, Israeli, and European intelligence services right now, today, and most people do not even realize it is happening. Let's start with the technical reality of Iran's nuclear program, because understanding what Pakistan brings to the table requires understanding exactly where Iran currently stands. Iran's nuclear infrastructure is divided into multiple facilities. The Natanz enrichment facility, located roughly 250 kilometers south of Tehran, contains thousands of centrifuges. The Fordo facility, built deep underground near Qom, operates as Iran's most hardened and protected enrichment site. The Iraq heavy water reactor, redesigned after the 2015 nuclear deal, represents Iran's plutonium pathway, and the Isfahan uranium conversion facility processes uranium ore into the gas that feeds into centrifuges. To put Iran's current enrichment capacity in perspective, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency's most recent quarterly report published March 2026, Iran has enriched uranium to 60% purity. Weapons-grade uranium requires 90% enrichment. The technical gap between 60 and 90% is far smaller than the gap between 67%, which was Iran's limit under the nuclear deal, and 60%. The IAEA has publicly acknowledged that Iran's current stockpile of 60% enriched uranium, if further enriched, could produce enough fissile material for multiple nuclear weapons in a matter of weeks. Not months, weeks. Now, here is what makes Pakistan's involvement significant. Pakistan developed its nuclear weapons program under extraordinary international pressure. It faced sanctions, isolation, and active sabotage attempts by Western intelligence services throughout the 1970s and 1980s. And yet Pakistan succeeded. It conducted its first successful nuclear weapons tests in May 1998. Today, Pakistan operates an estimated 170 nuclear warheads, according to the Federation of American Scientists. It has developed tactical battlefield nuclear weapons, submarine-launched nuclear capabilities, and a sophisticated command and control structure designed to survive a first strike. Subscribe if you are watching this and realizing you are not getting this level of analysis anywhere else. Now let's talk about what these scientists actually bring with them. Announcement number 1, weaponization expertise. And this one matters more than anything else because enriching uranium to weapons grade is only half the challenge. The other half, the half that determines whether you have a nuclear program or a nuclear arsenal, is weaponization. Weaponization means designing a warhead small enough to fit on a missile. It means developing the explosive lenses that compress fissile material to achieve critical mass. It means solving the engineering challenges of initiators, neutron reflectors, and re-entry vehicle design. These are not theoretical physics problems. These are precision engineering challenges that require decades of testing, iteration, and hands-on experience. Pakistan has that experience. According to multiple reports from Western intelligence agencies and confirmed by testimony before the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence in 2024, Pakistan's nuclear weapons program employed scientists and engineers who had worked on warhead miniaturization for over 3 decades. These individuals understand not just the theory, but the practical engineering of nuclear weapons design. They have solved the problems that Iran would otherwise need years of trial and error to overcome. The team that arrived in Tehran includes, according to sources familiar with the delegation's composition, specialists in metallurgy, high explosive engineering, and neutron physics. The metallurgy specialists understand how to machine and handle highly enriched uranium and plutonium without contamination or critical mass accidents. The high explosive experts know how to design and test the lenses that create the symmetric implosion necessary for a nuclear chain reaction. The neutron physics specialists can model and optimize weapon yields. Received. That is announcement number 1. Now, Let's be very clear about what Iran has been doing over the past 18 months while negotiations with the United States and European powers have dragged on without resolution. Iran has not been sitting idle. It has been preparing. According to reporting by Bloomberg and confirmed by statements from European diplomats speaking on background, Iran has installed advanced centrifuges at both Natanz and Fordo. These are not the first-generation IR-1 centrifuges that Iran operated under the nuclear deal. These are IR-6 and IR-8 centrifuges, which enrich uranium between 5 and 10 times faster than the older models. The significance of this cannot be overstated. Faster centrifuges mean Iran can produce weapons-grade uranium in a fraction of the time it would have required 5 years ago. The IAEA reported in January 2026 that Iran had begun cascading, which means connecting in series, over 1,000 advanced centrifuges. Each cascade exponentially increases enrichment speed. This is not a civilian nuclear energy program operating under international safeguards. This is a program designed for rapid breakout capability. Stay with me, because this is where the narrative completely changes and where the Pakistani scientists become impossible to ignore. Announcement number 2, the centrifuge transfer. This is the part multiple intelligence sources have confirmed, but which has received almost no mainstream media coverage. Pakistan operates its own uranium enrichment facilities. It has decades of experience with centrifuge technology, including designs that are more efficient and more resistant to sabotage than the models Iran currently operates. According to Defense Security Asia and corroborated by analysis from the Institute for Science and International Security, Pakistan has been quietly upgrading its own enrichment infrastructure over the past 5 years. It has centrifuge designs that Iran does not possess. Now, think carefully about what it means when nuclear scientists from one weapon state visit another state on the verge of weaponization. This is not a symbolic visit. This is not about scientific conferences or academic papers. When specialists in centrifuge design and operation travel to a country actively expanding its enrichment capacity, the implication is singular. They are sharing technical knowledge. They are providing design specifications. They are solving engineering problems that have been obstacles to faster production. The timing tells you everything. Pakistan's economy is under severe strain. Its foreign currency reserves remain critically low. Its relationship with the United States has deteriorated significantly since the Afghanistan withdrawal, and Iran, despite years of sanctions, has maintained access to oil revenue through sales to China. Iran has capital, Iran has resources, and Iran has something else Pakistan deeply values: strategic depth against India. Received. That is announcement number 2. Announcement number 3, and this one almost nobody in the mainstream media is connecting correctly: the delivery systems. Because here's what changes the entire strategic calculus. Iran does not need to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile to threaten its regional adversaries. Israel is fewer than 2,500 kilometers from Iran. Saudi Arabia is even closer. American military bases throughout the Gulf region are within range of Iran's existing missile arsenal. Iran currently operates the Shahab-3 missile with a range of approximately 1,300 kilometers. It operates the Sejil-2, a solid fuel missile with a similar range but faster launch time. It operates the Khorramshahr missile with an estimated range exceeding 2,000 kilometers. These are not experimental systems. These are operational missiles that Iran has displayed, tested, and in some cases, used in strikes against targets in Iraq and Syria. The question has never been whether Iran can deliver a payload across regional distances. The question has always been whether it can miniaturize a warhead to fit on those missiles. And this is precisely where Pakistani expertise becomes decisive. Pakistan has successfully miniaturized nuclear warheads to fit on its Shaheen and Gauri missile systems. It has solved the engineering challenges of ensuring a warhead survives the stress of launch, the heat of atmospheric re-entry, and detonates reliably at the intended altitude. This knowledge is what Iran lacks. This knowledge is what these scientists carry with them. According to open-source analysis published by the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, Pakistan's smallest operational warhead is estimated to weigh less than 200 kilograms. That is light enough to be carried by missiles Iran already possesses. If Pakistani scientists are sharing design parameters, material specifications, or testing methodologies, Iran's timeline to deployable nuclear weapons shrinks from years to months. Received. That is announcement number 3. Now let's talk about what is really happening behind the headlines, because there are 2 stories playing out simultaneously, and the mainstream media is only covering one of them. The public story is about nuclear negotiations. The Biden administration, and now the current administration, has repeatedly stated that diplomacy remains the preferred path to preventing an Iranian nuclear weapon. European powers have echoed this position. The IAEA continues to issue reports calling for Iranian cooperation and transparency, but behind that public narrative is a second story, and it is a story about acceptance. Western intelligence agencies know that Iran is approaching weaponization capability. They know that military strikes would, at best, delay the program by a few years while guaranteeing a regional war. They know that sanctions have not stopped Iran's progress and have instead pushed Iran closer to China and Russia. And they know that Pakistan, a nuclear weapons state that receives American military aid and maintains intelligence cooperation with Washington, is actively assisting Iran's program. Think carefully about what this represents. When a country that is nominally an American ally sends nuclear scientists to a country that America has designated as its primary regional adversary, and when that transfer happens without any significant American response, that is not ambiguity. That is not diplomatic nuance. That is a verdict. It is an acknowledgement, however quiet, that the effort to prevent an Iranian nuclear weapon has failed. Now, let me take you back to the 1990s because this pattern is not new. In the 1990s, while the United States was focused on the collapse of the Soviet Union and the First Gulf War, Pakistan was building its nuclear arsenal. American intelligence knew. They had satellite imagery of Pakistan's enrichment facilities. They had human intelligence sources reporting on weapons development. And yet, Pakistan succeeded because the United States decided that maintaining Pakistan as a partner against Soviet influence in Afghanistan mattered more than non-proliferation. Today, the calculus is different, but the pattern is the same. Pakistan is no longer countering Soviet influence. It is managing its rivalry with India, maintaining its position in Afghanistan, and balancing its relationships with China and the United States. And Iran is no longer a Shah-era ally. It is a revolutionary state that has survived 4 decades of hostility, sanctions, and isolation. But the fundamental dynamic remains. When geopolitical priorities conflict with non-proliferation goals, proliferation wins. If you are someone who follows energy markets, what is happening in Tehran is not just a nuclear story. It is an oil story, a shipping insurance story, and a global inflation story. If you are someone who watches defense stocks, this is not just about Iran. It is about Israeli military doctrine, Saudi nuclear ambitions, and American force posture across the Middle East. If you are someone concerned about great power competition, this is not a regional issue. This is about whether American security guarantees remain credible when allies pursue nuclear programs in defiance of American preferences. These effects will show up in ways most people do not yet recognize. Insurance premiums for shipping through the Strait of Hormuz will rise as the risk of conflict increases. Defense budgets across the Gulf will expand as states seek their own deterrent capabilities. And the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, already weakened by North Korea's successful weapons program, will lose whatever remaining authority it holds. This pattern has repeated throughout history, and every time it repeats, the outcome is the same. During the Peloponnesian War, Athens and Sparta went to war. 27 years. Both sides exhausted their treasuries, depleted their armies, and weakened their societies. And who won? Macedon. Philip II, and later his son Alexander, conquered a Greek world that had destroyed itself through prolonged conflict. The parallel is exact. The United States has spent 2 decades focused on the Middle East. It has fought wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It has conducted military operations in Syria, Yemen, Libya, and Somalia. It has poured trillions of dollars and thousands of lives into a region that remains as unstable as it was in 2001. And while America has been preoccupied, China has built the Belt and Road Initiative, expanded its navy, developed hypersonic missiles, and positioned itself as the dominant economic power across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Iran developing nuclear weapons is not the story. The story is what America failed to prevent while it was distracted. And Pakistan helping Iran is not betrayal. It is rational self-interest by a state that has concluded American security guarantees are no longer reliable enough to base its future upon. So where does this leave us? Let me give you 3 clear paths because there is no honest middle ground here. Path 1, containment. The United States and its allies accept that Iran will become a nuclear weapons state and shift strategy toward deterrence and containment. This means expanding missile defense systems throughout the Gulf. It means security guarantees to Israel and Saudi Arabia that are credible enough to prevent them from pursuing their own nuclear programs. It means accepting that the non-proliferation regime is effectively over and managing a world where more states possess nuclear weapons. This path avoids war, but guarantees a far more dangerous Middle East. Path 2, military action. Israel, with or without American support, conducts airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. This delays the program by 2 to 5 years, depending on the scope and success of the strikes. It also guarantees Iranian retaliation against Israeli cities, American bases, and Gulf shipping. It risks drawing the United States into another Middle Eastern war at a time when American public opinion is overwhelmingly opposed to such conflicts. And it ultimately fails because Iran will rebuild its program, likely with even less transparency and more hardened defenses. Path 3, regional acceptance. This is the path almost nobody is publicly discussing, but it may be the one we are already on. Saudi Arabia pursues its own nuclear weapons program with Pakistani assistance. Egypt follows. Turkey, which already possesses American nuclear weapons on its territory under NATO agreements, begins discussing an independent capability. The Middle East becomes a multipolar nuclear region where deterrence operates not through American guarantees, but through mutual vulnerability. I think we are closer to path 3 than the headlines suggest. Saudi Arabia has already signed agreements with China to develop civilian nuclear infrastructure. It has refused to commit to non-proliferation safeguards that would prevent weaponization, and it has maintained close ties with Pakistan's nuclear establishment for decades. If Iran demonstrates a deployable nuclear capability within the next 18 months, Saudi Arabia will have a decision to make. And that decision will not be to rely on American security assurances that have proven insufficient to stop Iran. Here are the questions I want you to take away. First, if Pakistan is willing to assist Iran despite its relationship with the United States, what does that tell us about how Pakistan views American reliability? Second, if Iran achieves weaponization, which other states in the region will pursue nuclear programs and how quickly? And third, if the non-proliferation regime collapses in the Middle East, what prevents it from collapsing globally? Tell me in the comments what you think happens next. Tell me if you think path 1, path 2, or path 3 is most likely. Tell me which country you think will be the next to pursue nuclear weapons if Iran succeeds. We will keep tracking every development in Tehran, Islamabad, Riyadh, and Jerusalem. That is what this channel does every single day. Subscribe now. Share this analysis with everyone in your network who is trying to understand what is really happening in the nuclear balance of power across the Middle East. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update, because what happens in Tehran over the next few months will determine the security architecture of this region for the next generation. We will see you in the next analysis.